On today's show, we will conclude Healthy Choices Week.
We will be talking about mental and developmental disabilities as well as learning disabilities. Good morning, ST. Today is Friday, November 20th. I'm Allie.
And I'm Andrea, and this is your STHS News show.
Hey, Andrea, did you know that your brain moves information at 260 miles per hour? That is faster than a Formula One race car, which tops out at 240 miles per hour.
Well, that is an interesting fact, but let's move on to some announcements.
Good idea. We have a lot to cover. The Powder Puff Games will be held Tuesday, November 24th. The first game is juniors versus freshmen from 3 o'clock to 3:50 p.m. And then the second game will be held from 4 o'clock to 4:50 p.m. and that will be the seniors against the sophomores. Then there will be a game from 5 o'clock to 5:50 to determine the third and fourth place winners. And then to determine the first and second place winners, there will be a game from 6 until 6:50 p.m. The cheerleaders will be performing at halftime, so make sure to come out and support your class. There will also be snacks to enjoy, and right now pre-sale tickets are on sale for $3, but you can also buy tickets at the gate for $5.
It's here. We are finally excited to announce the new Santa Teresa High School app. This app is available for Android and iOS. The app features push notifications to increase our ability to communicate. The School Info tab gives you quick access to the bell schedule, Naviance, news, school loop, information about the clubs, Student Family Center, STMAA, and tutoring. The STHS Broadcast tab gives you immediate access to the broadcast. Go check it out. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, but you know what else is really cool? Laughing. Laughing at a joke is no simple task. It requires activity in 5 different parts of your brain.
Okay, well, let's move on to the weather now. Well, it looks like it's going to have some nice weather this weekend.
Yeah, just make sure to keep drinking your water because did you know your brain is 73% water?
No, I did not know that. But enough about your brain facts, and let's move on to some important stuff.
Alright, today we will be wrapping up this week's Healthy Choices Week. Today we will be talking about mental and developmental disabilities as well as learning disabilities. Let's go check that out.
So I suffered from anorexia nervosa. So anorexia is typically attributed to eating less and exercising more, like they call it purging. Exercise is a form of purging, whereas in like bulimia, purging is typically vomiting. Anorexia, it's more like just exercising to the extreme. With my family, at first when they didn't notice, they were really like supportive of it. They're like, oh, it's healthy eating. This is a great endeavor. We should all try to do this. From the beginning, it was just I cut out certain meals. Like I used to have like snacks and like lunch, and then it just became like I would eat like applesauce. And from there, it just became I would just eat less and less over time. I was pretty like distant from my friends. Like when it was like really bad, I didn't really hang out with anyone because it was just difficult because like usually when you hang out with friends you have to eat food. Later it just became like fighting and just really like kind of like hatred toward them because I thought they were trying to make me change my eating habits to what they wanted, and I thought that would just make me fatter. I just remember like if anyone ever said anything, it would just like fuel me to keep going. Like that's like the worst thing you could say to someone is like, oh, you look too skinny, because that's exactly what they want. The word healthy to me, I remember when they're like, oh, you need to be healthy or you need to get to a healthy weight. Healthy always just was like equivalent to fat, because when I thought of healthy, I think, oh, you just eat more and you become fat, because that's the thinking then. You don't really realize that healthy is just being alive and not close to dying. Self-acceptance is really important to preventing almost like any mental illness sometimes. I think the most important thing is not to be afraid to ask for help about it or to explain it to someone. Even if it's just body image issues that haven't really developed into any kind of eating disorder, it's still important to get support for that and to not just like keep it inside, because it could develop into more.
Depression is being sad for a lot longer time than you really thought you would be sad, and anxiety is feeling nervous and tense all the time. Well, the best way to deal with someone who has depression and anxiety, first of all, is to be kind. Everybody who's listening to this video will experience depression or anxiety at some time in their life. Many people listening experience it right now. And so what any of us want is for people to be kind to us, understanding. People don't need advice. They don't need to have you try and fix everything for them. They just need to be listened to. So kindness is number one. Most of the time, the depression, anxiety is something that just kicks up all of a sudden, sometimes for no reason. And so we have the Student Family Center here at Santa Teresa where they can get some counseling. We really want students who feel sad a lot of the time or feel nervous, really intense nervousness, to make sure they're talking with their parents and letting their parents know about it, because there's treatment parents can provide through doctors and so forth. But also come on down to the Student Family Center to see our social workers so that people don't feel alone.
1 in 5 Americans have had a mental illness in their lifetime. The most common type of mental illness is anxiety, which 18% of adult Americans have. There are many types of anxiety disorders, but the most common is GAD, or General Anxiety Disorder. According to Elements Behavioral Health, 5% of Americans, especially women, are affected by this at one point in their lives. Only about 1/3 of people with anxiety receives treatment, but anxiety can be treated through talk therapy, coping strategies, medication, or meditation. Almost 1/2 of people who have depression are also diagnosed with anxiety. According to Healthline, 1 in 10 Americans are affected by depression at one point in their lives, but over 80% of people do not receive any treatment when they are having symptoms of clinical depression. 60 to 80% of all depression cases can be effectively treated with psychotherapy and antidepressant medication. The number of patients diagnosed with depression increased by about 20% every year. Women are twice as likely to have depression and symptoms of depression than men. Depression is most prevalent in people ages 45 to 64. There is also a large population of people in the U.S. who have developmental disabilities. Developmental disabilities are disabilities like autism spectrum disorder or intellectual disabilities. 1 in 6 children aged 3 to 17 years have a developmental disability, and all developmental disabilities are identified by the time you turn 22, and they will usually last for the rest of their lives. 3.5 million Americans have an autism spectrum disorder, which makes this the fastest growing mental health disability. About 6,000 babies born in the U.S. are diagnosed with Down syndrome every year, which makes this the most common genetic condition. According to the Mental Health Foundation, people with mental disorders are the least likely of any group with long-term health conditions to find work, maintain a long-term relationship, live in a decent house, and be socially included in mainstream society. People with mental disabilities are more likely to be a victim of a crime than the perpetrator, because even though most people think of them to be violent, only 3 to 5% are. Many people fear sharing their mental disability with others because of stereotypes like these.
I have kids with autism. There's misconceptions that maybe they don't have feelings because they don't display them the same way that maybe you or I do. So there's a misconception that maybe they don't care, they don't want friends, but a lot of time they actually do. They just don't know how to communicate that the way that we do. So depending on what disability it is, everyday life can just feel extremely overwhelming. And for our developmentally disabled students, like kids with autism, it could be really hard socially. Hard to make friends, hard to keep friends. I would suggest, instead of being judgmental, maybe ask questions. People are more comfortable with you asking questions than they are with you kind of whispering about them behind their backs. I would just say stay open-minded. I think it's great that you're learning about this so that you know that, it doesn't mean anybody's crazy, that everybody's normal, and that we could interact just the way that you and I interact, regardless of what condition somebody has.
I have a learning disability, which means that I don't learn the same way that other students do in the classroom. I don't think I was born with the disability. I think it happened over time. In middle school when we were switching seats or something, and I got sat next to this kid that I never knew, but I turned out that he also had like the same kind of disability. Like he had a hard time learning, so I was glad to know that I was the only one that had trouble learning. A lot of people probably have learning disabilities. You probably just don't know about it. And if you do have a learning disability, it's okay. It's not like a bad thing. I don't think I've been like discriminated against. I know a lot of people like are smarter than me, but like I don't take that personally. I would like people to treat me with respect, treat me like how they would want to be treated, and like not like an outsider or different just because like I learn differently.
Every day there are obstacles we have to face, some different from others. Everyone is facing something, but you may not know who is and what they're facing. Today is going to be about learning disabilities. They are more common than you've probably thought. As many as 1 of every 5 people in the U.S. have one. There are about 3 million people between the ages of 6 through 21 who have to face those obstacles. The different types of ways to cope with learning disabilities are different for each student. Different for all students. But in general, if you are struggling, you should know if you are a visual learner, auditory learner, being you learn by listening, or a kinesthetic learner, where you learn by hands-on. Whether it's playing or listening to music, it has been found to stimulate the concentration and listening abilities. Also, musical instruments have been helpful and able to be therapeutic to one's learning.
I think it's a lot like working with regular students. They're all regular people, and as a teacher, you realize people learn in different ways, and it's not that different from a regular classroom, I don't think.
Once you learn what you are, you can use those to the best of your abilities, and discuss that with your peers to inform them what you are comfortable with.
Sometimes in class, I get a little too excited. When the teacher says something funny, I get too loud, so I'm still trying to like laugh quietly but not too loud. Because when other people hear it, it kind of hurts their ears.
Well, you get to know each student and what their abilities and likes and strengths and learning style is, and then and then you go about trying to. We have smaller class size and paraeducators in most of our classrooms, so we can differentiate instruction to meet the needs of most students. And it's usually 18 students to a class with 2 staff, so we get a lot more one-to-one time and provide more one-to-one and small group type of learning.
Specific learning disabilities include auditory processing disorder, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyslexia, language processing disorder, nonverbal learning disabilities, visual perceptual and visual motor deficit. Contrary to common belief, ADHD is not a learning disability. However, ADHD can interfere with learning.
In other times, like during lunch and break and at home, I'm pretty calm. But it just happens at school if a teacher says something funny and it kind of...
It is important to realize that learning disabilities can affect an individual's life beyond academics and can impact relationships with family, friends, and in the workplace. According to the Learning Disabilities Association, learning disabilities are neurologically based processing problems. These processing problems can interfere with learning basic skills such as reading, writing, and/or math. They can also interfere with higher level skills such as organization, time planning, abstract reasoning, long or short-term memory, and attention.
Yeah, sometimes people treat me differently because the way I learn.
Okay, so like classmates?
Yeah. Classmates, yeah.
I mean, I said it already. I mean, there's regular students. There's not that. They're just regular students that have a different setting, and that's what I think people, should know if they don't.
Wow, that was a lot of good and new information for me.
Yeah, well, we have just a couple more announcements for you guys. The senior class is now selling Thanksgiving grams until Monday, November 23rd at lunch and break in front of the senior wall. Grams will be delivered during 4th period on Tuesday, November 24th. Each Thanksgiving gram comes with a daisy, a little note to show appreciation. Buy one for $2 for someone that you are thankful for.
And just a heads up, ST is having its 5th annual talent show. It will be on January 22nd, 2016. If you want to be a part of this awesome event, audition packets are available for pickup in the ASB room right now, and they are due December 18th. Grab a packet for more details and about auditions and practices. Wow, this semester is quickly coming to an end.
Yeah, it is. So we should go check out the club slides if you haven't already. We have a lot of clubs at ST to choose from, so everyone should be able to find something of their liking.
Yeah, well, I didn't see a brain club though.
That's because there isn't one. I am sure you can find a different club though.
I guess you're right. Well, I think this is all we have for you today.
Yeah, remember, if you have any announcements for the broadcast, please send them to tinyurl.com/STBcast.
And make sure to follow at STHS News on Twitter for daily updates and exclusive content. Well, I'm Allie.
And I'm Andrea. Have a great weekend, San Teresa.